Glenda, if you can hear me, my name is Ryan. I'm the host of this. If you can just come on the air and make sure your microphone's working.
Hi, I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll start this in just about, let's give it about 30 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and start with just a brief statement. It'll also include a safe harbor statement, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, hello and welcome everybody to the Tiger Stock Discord discussion with Glenda Dowie, Chief Executive Officer of APT Systems. It's OTC ticker symbol APTY. Glenda needs very little introduction, as most of us have heard of her speak on other platforms. This will be a slightly different discussion with Glenda because these questions are coming straight from you, the investor or prospective investor of APTY. I think it's fair to say that most of us in this room are familiar with APTY via their recent OTC filings. Those of us that are investors of APTY are fortunate to have Glenda at the helm, and as we know, she remains committed to moving the company from its stated goals to delivering its products like Spera stablecoin and its services like Verifunder for managing escrow. As with all of our interviews brought to you by Tiger Stock Discord, I'll provide the following safe harbor statement. Our discussions may include predictions, estimates, or other information that might be considered forward-looking. While these forward-looking statements represent the company's current judgment on what the future holds, they are subject to risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially. You are cautioned not to place undue reliance on these forward-looking statements, which reflect opinions only as of the date of this presentation. Please keep in mind that the company is not obligating themselves to revise or publicly release the results of any revision of these forward-looking statements in light of new information or future events. Throughout today's discussion, we will attempt to present important facts relating to the company's business that may affect any predictions. With that being said, thank you, Glenda, for joining us. We have more than a few questions for you. So if you're ready, let's begin.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here, and I believe ready to take on those questions.
All right, fantastic. Let's start with this. So the company's had come a long way in the past year. What do you feel is the biggest strength for your company right now?
I think it's a combination of things. The fact that we have all the filings up to date, that was an important undertaking for the company, for people to know what we're doing, but also it became legislation that was a requirement in order for us to stay actively trading. So, we were happy we were able to accomplish that. On the other side, last year we were talking about things that we were doing, and this year we're actually showing progress. We're showing products. We're showing that we've been moving ahead, and I'm pretty excited for that.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You guys have been doing a lot of work in the last year for sure. What goal do you have for I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the other thing that I think is really important is we've been through a pretty strenuous compliance review, and more challenging than I had anticipated. And so I'm very proud that we were able to jump through all of those hoops, both from a technical point of view, plus, our lawyer was writing letters in order to make sure our position was clear, policies that we had in place. So yeah, it was an interesting time.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, so what goals do you have for the company in the next 2 years and longer term, let's say 5 years?
So I guess in a nutshell, I would say growth and efficiency in what's becoming a more digitalized world. And that we have started with Spira. We have other platforms that we want to build. And to me, it's really important that they have a high usability for people, and they make sense and improves their life, and that they're efficient. Because I don't think the digital world is going away any day too soon. So
right.
on the short term, we want to be able to finish putting our products in front of people and then reviewing that and improving those products, as well as seeing what additional products come out of these releases. We have some other ideas on things that we want to do, but we want to walk before we run as well.
Right. Understand. So I was on your website yesterday and went through, a lot of your filings dating back to 2018. And so the next question is, what are the biggest challenges you've had over the last few years?
Well, I think, from an obvious point of view, being involved with the lockdown and all of the problems that it created for the average person and the economy, especially when we were in the position where we had Orex and it was a hands-on business where you need truckers and all of that infrastructure in order to do your business. I think that as of recent, we've seen some pretty wild times in the economy, everything happening in the crypto space. And so, taking and watching what's happening, it's been interesting. And it's also sort of exposing us to different things that we thought about. And now we actually have real-time data and input so we can make better decisions going forward.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's been a tumultuous, in the OTC markets, tumultuous year, and for the crypto markets, definitely the past few months. So the elephant in the room here is Spira coin.
Yes.
And can you update us as to where we're at in terms of the rollout? I mean, we all got some emails yesterday, but if you can tell us live what's going on.
Sure, happy to. We have successfully completed what we're calling phase 2 of the testing. Phase 1 was with very, limited objectives, a fixed circle of people, and we were able to expand that. And then now we're able to offer it to the public. We are rolling this out on a decidedly slow basis. We agreed with Prime Trust because we want to make sure that everything that we have done and been checking continues to perform, especially as there's more demand. We want to make sure that our base is solid. So we're very excited that we could put out the email before this interview so that people could go into and open up an account and look around the wallet. We designed that on purpose so that before you turned over your identification, started transferring funds, that you could actually have a look around and see what we had built and how we tried to keep it as simple as possible. Wallets are a complicated undertaking, and even opening up a wallet in some places doesn't seem easy. So our goal was to be user-friendly, and I hate that word, but that's just the reality of it, so people could go in, load up their documents, open up their account, press on a button to determine how they want to transfer funds, get those instructions, funds into the account in 1 or 3 days, depending on how you choose to do it. And then there's another button, open your wallet, very simple process, and you're ready to buy Spira coin.
That's awesome. I see that so as of right now, Spira is available in 4 countries: the United States, Canada, Mexico, and the UK.
Correct.
And there is a notification at the bottom of the email, basically, if you're from a different country, to notify you guys that you want access. How difficult is that process going to be to add other countries?
So it's interesting because we're a US-based company, and our position is that people are coming to us, inside of the United States infrastructure. It's not like we're running out to all these different countries and opening up an office.
Sure.
So there's a fine line in terms of looking at the regulations for these different countries, and in where they will say, okay, if you don't have a physical presence, you're not really considered a business here, so there's not that much in terms of regulation. Also, stablecoins themselves, you've seen in the in the Senate, the House, that they're discussing how they want to regulate stablecoin. I think all of the other countries are at that space as well. So we want to reach out and start on the premise that there's not a lot of regulations in place for us to meet, and see if that government feels comfortable with it. And then we can go ahead and, again, it's always, compliance is a big part of our brand. So, we'll continue to work with them. So in some cases, we can get a broad reach. We can kind of get the EU countries, because they have similar legislation, kind of under one umbrella. Other countries might be a one-off, communication.
Right. Okay. Staying with Spira coin, do you guys have any plans to advance or promote Spira that you can share? And what marketing initiatives are being discussed by you guys?
So as I mentioned earlier, we, decidedly are going to move a bit slower during this quarter in order to make sure everything is in place that we need to do before we would launch a campaign.
Sure.
We have obviously plans to promote, and we're looking at different ways, influencers, full-on email campaigns to people who've already identified themselves as wanting to know more about the crypto business, or they're already fully vested. And, there's more other sort of more traditional ways that you can advertise, work with agencies. So we're trying to see which is going to be the most cost effective. And so we'll be doing smaller tests in each of these areas. And the ones that are more successful, we will push more dollars out, of course.
Sure. As far as compliance, how important is compliance to APT Systems? And I can imagine the answer. And then along those lines, why did you choose Prime Trust as a custodial partner?
So it's been a hallmark that we've been striving for since we decided to move ahead with Spira and Verifunder, this whole idea of compliance. We've been compliant in the security space for a long time now, and while sometimes it's costly and frustrating, at the end of the day, we've always felt that having the transparency was worth it. And so we want to bring that same, ideology to the whole crypto space and what we're trying to do, because nobody's really doing it from this perspective. They're all sort of looking for ways to get around it. They're, built offshore. And we want to have a true American solution that we hope that all citizenry could benefit from. But as you saw in our email, Prime Trust is still negotiating with New York and Hawaii to meet their money business license standards that they've set out for cryptocurrency. So that's why we chose Prime Trust, is they also are heavily reliant on their compliance department to make sure that when they step out and they're supporting a company like us, that they're doing it in a proper way, because that's their business model, and they don't want some customer that's not being compliant to upset their long-term goals and their business. Right. So we felt that at this stage they could offer us the banking solutions, the wallet solutions that we knew individuals would need to start getting involved with Spira. And of course, once that's settled, resolved, and we have a really good basis for working with each other, we'll be looking to, expand.
Gotcha. I mean, it's great to hear you say all that, and to know that you guys are not flying by the seat of your pants. I think all too often, some of these coins and tokens and things like that, it seems like they're just flying by the seat of their pants, and it's very unnerving. So it's good to hear.
Yeah, no, we think it's important because we want to be around for a while, and we want people to feel good supporting us.
Yeah, absolutely. So how does Spira coin tie into the Verifunder plans? Can you give us a good, complete overview of that?
Sure. Verifunder simply is an escrow platform. And I don't talk enough about it, and I hope in future sessions that we do that I can deep dive a bit more. But the reason for the involvement with Spira is that we wanted to embrace both the traditional financial model for payments, but also embrace all things blockchain, crypto, that can make for a better user experience, especially internationally. where, it's not easy still to work strictly within the traditional banking system. So we
Right.
felt it was important that Verifunder has its US dollar side. Somebody wants to put US dollars into escrow, and the other person wants to be paid in US dollars, fine, perfect. But in order to take advantage of smart contracts, you need to have a cryptocurrency as part of that. And again, one time I, sent $10,000 from San Francisco to Toronto, and it took 8 days to get there. I'm like,
Right.
why not just put it in a suitcase and fly it over,
Sure.
right? So it's a challenge for, all financial institutions to be able to have this money readily available. The final part that is equally important to us is that should someone be paid in Spira, that they can convert back to US dollars very easily.
Right.
And
Right.
because it's a good payment means, but if you have to pay grocery bill, probably it's going to be a while before Spira will be usable at your grocery store.
Okay. A couple follow-up questions about Verifunder real quick. So is Verifunder planned to be on a consumer level? So let's say I want to buy a vehicle online, and the person I'm buying from, they have the vehicle. I'm not sure I trust them, but we can use an escrow type service like Verifunder to hold the money until the goods are delivered. Is that how it's work, or is it like a institutional, industrial level escrow system?
It's both.
Okay.
So that, you sort of nailed it on the head, where you want to buy a good used car and say it's, $12,000, $15,000. The guy says, I want to be paid in cash. And you're like, okay, but where do you meet? How good do you feel about walking around with $15,000 in your
Right.
pocket? Right. So there's a need very much in any kind of chattel that higher price point. But on a really simple basis, I know a lot of people sadly get taken advantage of on tickets, where they'll buy tickets to an event and they
Right.
get there and the barcode doesn't work, right? And so to me, having a service where you put your money in escrow, your $100, $200 per ticket, whatever it is, and it's released when your bum is in the seat, literally, then you feel pretty good about buying that ticket from that person. And I know
Right.
that there's some services that help validate tickets, but they're quite costly. We see transactions under $10,000 being, a $10 fee. So I think a $10 insurance to make sure your $300 or $400 worth of tickets is good is a pretty reasonable trade-off.
Right. Since we're in the weeds just a little bit on some of the stuff, as far as Spira goes, if I'm using Spira to make a purchase, withdrawal, deposit, do we know at this point what the transaction time is going to take? Is there any information on that?
It's pretty quick. So, what we've been testing has basically been in the realm of, a minute or two.
Oh,
So,
fantastic.
yeah, and one person commented, which I appreciated, that they said, that the transition, to buy and the Spira and transfer it was very smooth and not very costly because it is well built. That's part and parcel of the whole need for good design, for
Right.
audits, all of these kinds of things, because if you build clunky code, you're going to pay for it somewhere else. And
Right.
so there's a lot of moving parts that maybe we don't always explain, but we're really focusing on these details and trying to make sure that it's the best we can do with the technology we have right now.
Right. Well, and that's huge. I mean, considering the fact that if you want to use this down the road at your supermarket and you're trying to buy some groceries, you can't stand there for 15 minutes while you're, at the check stand.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's huge. I mean, if you're, take Bitcoin, for example. I mean, it's one thing if you're buying a car and you can wait around for 40 minutes, but you're not going to buy a cup of coffee with it.
No.
So no, it sounds awesome and very usable. So very good.
And so then to speak to the other side, the commercial side,
Mhm.
this is what I want, right? You're dealing with people in other parts of the world. Chances of ever getting face to face are very small. So
Right.
you're building these relationships over the phone. And while it might seem to be going well, at the end of the day, having an escrow service that releases money based on milestones is a pretty good thing to have, because I understand you're sitting in a country and they want you to do work, and you're like, how do I
Sure.
know I'm going to get paid? And the person sits on the other side saying, how do I know you're going to do the work?
Absolutely.
Right. So
Yep.
from the amount of fraud, sadly, that still exists, my goal is that this can help mitigate a lot of fraud that shouldn't be happening, but it does.
Sure. No, that's great. As far as Verifunder goes, are we expecting a beta launch at the end of this year?
Well, I'm being careful on timing now. I mean, I can always say that we are working to move things ahead as quickly as possible. Some days it's one day at a time. You run into third-party things that are out of your control.
Sure.
So yeah, the goal is to get it, we hope it's this year that people can, go ahead and at least get on the platform and get a sense of the user experience.
Right.
The heavy lifting has been done, but you just can't say it's there until it's there.
Right. Understood. As far as other products that you guys are working on, is there something in regards to trading that you guys have?
Yes, and personally, I can't wait to start working on the trading platform. We're calling it IntuiTrader. We
Okay.
decided that it made sense to launch with Verifunder because that's how we onboard individuals sort of into the space, right? This financial theme park, and so that was important to have Verifunder in place. But of course, we know that people wanted to see Spira, and we felt that getting it into the marketplace and having that introduction was a good thing. And then people will be more comfortable using it inside
Right.
of the escrow facility. So we thought that that made sense. And so we postponed IntuiTrader to be the third project. And we want to be able to integrate with the brokers so that you'll be able to pass your trading requests, whether it's a buy, sell, my stop has been hit, what do I do? And to have that go directly to your broker, because not all of us have the luxury of sitting in front of your computer for 3-4 hours
Sure.
watching your trades and then calling it a day. So IntuiTrader is going to help sort of decide how you want to manage your risk, what part of the market you want to play in, and then ultimately help you execute. Because what is the market now? 60, 70, 80% computers that are trading.
Right.
Unless you've got some kind of device that's equally as fast, the computer is going to execute 20 orders by the time you can push your finger to get your order out there. And of course, your bid or ask is moving on each one of those transactions.
Sure.
So yeah, so that will be the next fun project.
No, it's awesome. You guys are creating an ecosystem that sounds amazing once it's fully capable. So, as far as let's talk about RX. So, I believe it was last year that there was a PR that was released that RX was sold. How
November.
does it okay, November. How does it impact APTY, and what are the plans to fund initiatives long term?
So what happens is when we were running the subsidiary, you can appreciate it's very hands-on. And we decided that a good part of the work we could do inside of a division as opposed to having to own and operate a full subsidiary. And the experiences inside of RX were pretty eye-opening. So when we were presented with the opportunity where an individual wanted to buy the company and continue serving the customer base that we had created, as well as expanded in a few other interesting ways, we decided that that made sense because we had already been working on Spira since August, and we knew we were getting closer in terms of being able to put it on testnet and do those kinds of things. So we felt that it was the right thing to do. It gave some cash flow, made sure that the business would continue serving customers, continue serving the environment by keeping this material out of scrap yards,
Right.
and having the gold and other precious metal recovery.
Okay. And as far as funding initiatives long term, how do you guys plan on doing that?
So, I mean, we're a public company, so you have resources that come within a public company, that you can things you can issue and do in order to
Sure.
raise capital. So we're always in contact with individuals, companies about how they might align with our goals and if we're a fit.
Okay.
And yeah, and eventually, with Verifunder, it's a subscription model. Even the small fees that we charge on Spira will all start moving the company into a good revenue positive position.
Fantastic. Besides the things you've already talked about, what kind of catalyst do you think might affect the stock going forward, both good and bad? What kind of catalyst?
I think that we've kind of experienced a bear market catalyst that's clearly exposed the liquid vulnerabilities in crypto, right?
Sure.
And that was eye-opening to watch. And what happens really boils down to that it's difficult or even impossible for people to secure their funds outside of these institutions. That they may be allowed a partial withdrawal, a promise of a future withdrawal, and it's problematic. It's a catch-22 if that phrase is still in use. So I think that the crypto space has to be aware now of how important some kind of regulations are.
Sure.
And that when they take deposits from people, that they're able to meet those deposits and return the funds if that's so desired. So, that's the bad side of things. On the good side, we're taking measures to mitigate that and to have people feel, better about the space and about the assets that they're holding. And so, in a big picture way, I think that it's still going to be value, blockchain, cryptocurrencies. I think that some of the things that have been started are going to take a life of their own and keep going. And that's important. And I think that there'll still be positive ways that it can contribute to society. Like the blockchain, the whole concept of recording, transactions and transparency, I think is really huge. And eventually people will really start to realize the benefit of that. It's just going to take a while to implement it.
Sure. In the past, you've gone on record saying that there will be no reverse split plan. Has that plan changed at all?
Easy question. No.
Okay, good.
So, and let me
knock that one off the list.
Yeah, let me add that should it change, you would hear it from us. We would announce it, and you wouldn't be getting this from some vocal Twitter account that has no insider information.
Gotcha. All right, so we're going to move on to some other investor questions. In regards to Spira, what kind of reserves are required for Spira? And if reserves are required, where will the money come from?
Okay. I'm not sure I exactly understand this question. So let me try to answer it like this.
Okay.
A reserve is built simply through buying Spira. You take and you provide us with $1, and in return, we provide you with a digital dollar. The cash that you pay to receive that digital dollar stays in the banking system. It stays in the format of cash. So it has liquidity. So that if you feel the need to say, at this moment, I don't need a digital dollar, I need a US dollar, that it won't be problematic for you to switch back easily, quickly. right? And so the reserves come from the willingness of individuals to buy and hold Spira.
Okay. I didn't write the question, so let me ask this a slightly different way.
Okay.
Knowing that Spira is backed by gold, and I want to say it's 2%, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Knowing that as Spira grows and the need for more gold rises, how do you guys plan on acquiring that 2% to keep it in motion?
So that's the beauty of having been involved in the Oryx business model.
Mm-hmm.
We have exposure to the broad markets in terms of gold, exposure to individuals that can secure gold on our behalf. We can demand eco gold. We can demand gold in sort of traditional minted coins. And so this is the good part of having been involved with Oryx, and why we had the confidence to go and say that we would do a 2% holding, because we understand how the gold markets work, how liquid they are, what's required. So, in the previous question, or in the answer, where you could exchange the Spira for $1, gold is highly liquid if you have your buyers already set up, which we do. So in a catastrophic situation where every single Spira had to be redeemed for $1, worst case scenario, your gold is sold in 48 hours.
Okay.
Right.
Is there any chance in the future that the 2% could become 4% backed by gold, or is it set in stone that it's 2%?
We clearly left that option open because we thought that the gold, might act as some kind of an inflationary hedge, having that be part of the backing. And we don't know where the economy is going to be in 6 months, let alone, 6 years. And if it made sense to say, you know what, Spira really needs to be 10% gold, then we would make the plan, acquire the gold, and move that ratio. Is it likely to go to zero? No, we're pretty committed to the 2%. We think it's quite manageable on a large scale, but there's nothing that would prevent us from increasing the gold exposure.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about the transaction system in Spira? And would it be like any real-life banking system or exchange?
Well, yes. So opening an account on our site is really like opening any standard bank account, especially from a regulatory point of view. There are certain criteria that you need to meet as an institution, and that's why we have Prime Trust, in order to satisfy all the banking regulators, that you are making sure that you're opening accounts for people who don't have bad intentions. And, that's the bottom line of it. And you're, trying to create an environment where anti-money laundering rules come into play, so that if there is suspicious activity, it can be stopped and reported. That's what the government wants from anybody involved in the banking world. So that's what we've created, is that whole process. But we've extended it because we've also given you a wallet that holds a crypto asset. So your regular bank account is not going to do that. So, and now once you have that account, it's really like having two bank accounts. Let's say you had an account at Wells Fargo and another account at Chase. Then you wanted to transfer the money between them, you could wire the money from your one account to your other account, right? And everything, and that's basically what you do. You wire money from your, account that you use for investing, or your regular bank account, and you transfer it into your account, your bank account, inside of the APT system, right?
Right.
And then you're in a position where, just like if you were inside of the regular banking system and you wanted to move that money to a different account, say you wanted to pay a credit card or whatever, you can now move those funds into a Spira purchase, and now you would have Spira in the wallet.
Gotcha. So the next question we've kind of covered in general, but this might be a little more specific, so I'll go with it anyways. So as Spira buying scales, will purchasing recovered gold from a refining company like RX be enough? Or are there other plans for APTY to purchase recovered gold from other similar facilities?
So yes, we did cover this to some extent, earlier. We have the relationships to be able to secure gold. We have the relationships to secure e-scrap and e-waste and actually create the gold for ourselves. Those relationships that we established inside of OREX have not gone away. APT has gone ahead and opened up accounts the way OREX had to open up accounts to do business, so that we've kept these options completely on the table.
Okay. All right. Next question. So who are the anticipated users of Verifunder? Individuals, institutions, both? Again, we've covered some of this. And if institutions, has the company been in contact with any who might lease or purchase Verifunder technology?
So you're right. We did cover this. And as I stated earlier, there is a use case for both individuals and businesses. And so we're hoping that being people that buy Spira want to be part of the whole Verifunder plan and see if the escrow works for them in whatever they might be buying and selling. So I think, though, to maybe address this question the way you asked it, I think that from a business point of view, that's where it really makes sense, and to be able to facilitate contracts, facilitate trade, facilitate payments, and in a way that mitigates fraud. And I think that's really important. People don't realize how much email fraud there is around relationships with suppliers. So the typical one is they get an email saying, "Oh, we changed our bank or we changed our account. Please send your monthly payment here." And really, it's an email getting you to direct funds to some offshore account. Goodbye forever, and it's problematic. If you had an account inside of Verifunder and that funds would be distributed to your supplier at the end of every month, there's no way for a third party to interfere or change that without having to go through a number of mechanisms inside of the platform. So I'm excited to be able to sort of start to do these things. The other thing that's interesting is we will reach out to large companies. For example, eBay has a escrow process that they use for large ticket items. So, we'll be more than competitive with anybody in the space, or we feel will be a better solution to running an in-house way of managing escrow. So why wouldn't you, let us help you with that? So I think there's a big opportunity to reach out to large institutions who would have the need to hold money in a certain place until a transaction or, something's purchased has been completed.
Right. And as a follow-up to all this, I'm assuming that the use of Verifunder would come with a fee. And would that fee be a flat rate, or are we talking a percentage based on the amount used? How does it work?
So if it's $10,000 or less, the value of the contract or the item purchased, it's a flat rate of $10.
Okay.
And if it's over 10,000, then it's $10 plus a small percentage of the total transaction. And it's a small percentage. It's not going to be cost prohibitive at all.
No, I mean that all seems very reasonable for the peace of mind that comes with using a service like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. There's a feeling over the last couple of years that countries seem to be stockpiling gold and silver. We see it in smaller countries. They are already backing their currency with metals. If America were to do that, what would be your take on what that could do to Spira, the digital coin?
So we don't see this as a bad thing. I think moving the whole dollar away from gold has, not been a great thing for the economy. I think it's adding to the inflation and problems that we're experiencing. And, gold was $30 in the 30s, and, look at the price of gold now.
Right.
So what's happened? Well, I think gold is still gold, but I think it's kind of showing us how our purchasing power has been devalued.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Yep.
so bringing gold back into the economy, I think is fine. I don't think it hurts anything in terms of what Spira is trying to do or be. We can increase the gold portion of Spira, like we discussed earlier, if that makes sense. If we have to maintain some sort of relationship, because the fiat is going in this direction, we saw that might be a possibility. That's why we've left our gold ratio flexible. And if we're already partially gold backed, and now we've got fiat that's partially gold backed, I just think that's better for everyone.
Sure. Yeah. It definitely strengthen the economy as a whole.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of the stock market and APTY in particular, what is the ultimate goal for APTY? Is it uplisting to a higher exchange? And if so, would you guys consider a share buyback?
So we're okay with being on the OTC for now.
Mm-hmm.
It allows us to be publicly traded. Jumping up to the next level is very costly,
Sure.
and it also adds to your compliance requirements. So you're setting yourself up for more observation, more third parties to work with, and who are overseeing and potentially changing your business direction, by virtue of the rules and things that you have to follow. So uplisting to a higher exchange is not something that's off the table. We're not opposed to it, but it would have to make sense, right? It would have to be something that would benefit the shareholders as a whole,
Sure.
and that it would allow the company to grow in more meaningful ways that it couldn't do where it is right now. So there's no plan to do that, let's say, at this point, but we recognize that maybe that's something in the future we would look at and see if it makes sense. And in terms of a share buyback, I mean, really, that happens when a company has a lot of cash. So
Oh, yeah.
so if our sales are like crazy over the top and the company's financially successful, then it's a strategy that a lot of companies use, is just, well, we've got this cash, let's bring our share value higher for those that, hung in with us during the tougher times.
Right. And there's only so many ways you can change your share structure, and we all know those ways. And so, yeah, it might be better just to stay where we're at right now.
At least for now.
So, yep, exactly. Okay. Why do you believe that Spira is a better stablecoin compared to other available ones in the market? And given the same pressures that Terra was under, how would a Spira reaction be different from Terra?
So it's really important to reinforce the liquidity. I mean, the problem is that as a financial fintech institution, you need to have your dollars work for you, and that's what these companies are doing. Whether they're buying treasury bonds, they're buying other notes, investing in other companies, they're trying to earn some interest on their cash in order to offset, their overhead costs, increase their sales, all those kinds of fun things. But what it does, though, is it causes these sort of liquidity events where, in some cases, that paper is tied up for 30, 60, 90 days. And so you can't call yourself a true stable coin. You're stable in the sense that your assets match the amount of coins issued, so that you have that dollar peg. But as people start to look at your holdings and they can see where there's some liquidity risk, it's not unreasonable for your coin to be pegged to something that's slightly less than $1, 98 cents, 99 cents. So it's going to create some different kinds of challenges for us, but we're committed to having this strong cash base so that liquidity is not an issue, and that people aren't going to have to worry about getting their funds back. I mean, if you want to make a transfer in a bank, it can take 3 or 4 days. So if it took us 1 or 2 days to liquidate some gold and give you your cash, that's well within sort of the banking standards that we know we currently have. So we think it's important that if we want to move into a really good payment system, hopefully one day expand where you can use Spira as a coin at the supermarket, having that liquidity and speed is really mission critical, as they say.
Yep, definitely. This is a little forward looking for sure. So in the next 6 months, do you anticipate Spira being released on different exchanges? If so, how many do you anticipate? It's a hard question to ask, I know. And
so let me say that we are working out the proverbial kinks with our current partner. Integrating, 2 different sets of software, especially when you have all the banking oversight that's involved, all the third-party KYC, all of these things you're trying to do in a minute or two. It's a lot. And so we want to take the time to really make sure that everything operationally is smooth and that there's no surprises. And once we've done that and we really understand better all the infrastructure of Prime Trust, then we can expand into some of their other services, as well as start to reach out to exchanges that would be compatible with what's already built. And so that's a investigative process, and we're having conversations and things, trying to see where's the best fit going forward. And also too, we're watching these exchanges, and some of these exchanges are being pretty shaken with all that's been going on. So we have the time to watch over the next month or so to see how this all pans out and to see who the leaders are, and still standing after all this craziness.
Right. Makes sense. As Spira is released to the public, will Prime Trust PR this as well as APTY and announce the addition of Spira to their platform and promote the coin also to help us get more exposure?
I think that's fair for me to say yes. As things are as we're working together and as they're seeing success on the coin, certainly it's in their interest to help promote us and to get more eyes on it, because ultimately it benefits them. But this is an early new relationship, and like I said, we're both moving optimistically but cautiously, knowing that good things are down the road.
Yep. The next question is about setting up an account. Obviously based on the conversation we had earlier, if you're in one of the 4 countries and you are signed up for the pre-sale, you can start signing up for an account now. Is that correct?
Yes. And I'd like to give some tips.
Sure.
Because it's funny little things when you're trying to do things on an automated basis. You have to set some parameters. So, for example, when you take a picture of your identification, usually a driver's license, make sure that all 4 corners are inside the picture, and that there's not a huge glare from some kind of overhead light that would actually diminish the ability of the programs to read and record the data.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. This is where all the regulation comes in. Yes.
Right. And so when we were testing, I mean, to me, that it wasn't anything that had crossed my mind. And then all of a sudden it became a thing. And I'm like, okay, noted. The other thing too is that the protocols for KYC are very strict. So, for example, let's say you have a hyphenated last name, and on your driver's license, the person forgot to put the hyphen and they just put a space, okay? So when you open up the account and you put in a hyphen, but your driver's license doesn't have a hyphen, you're not going to pass.
Got issues. Yeah.
It has to be identical, right? So these are sort of the fun little things that we can see. We allow people to go into the account without being fully authenticated because we, like I said, we want you to be able to have a look around. And I'm not sure that all people realize that the account is not going to get active until you supply your personal identification. And so sometimes I think they're waiting, thinking, oh, it's pending, I'm good, I'll just wait. When really you should kind of poke around the software and make sure that you haven't missed a step or missed adding a document or something to sort of help with that pending. Right. And then again, it's, how good are you on a computer with banking? It's set up for people that have that skill. But if you're not that great on computer banking, it's designed that you can take your phone to the bank, show them the wire instructions, and a good personal banker would help you set up the wire.
Gotcha. Okay. Within the prime trust spectrum, what other similar products to Spira are available, as far as your competitors, and just if you could tell us a little bit about how you feel about them versus Spira?
So I mean, they're like Dapper has a stable coin. I mean, you've got Binance in there as Binance.us as a platform. So certainly their stable coins are available. Again, it comes back to, what's the nature of the coin? Is it something that you want to put away and hold long term? Have it as some kind of fail safe if the regular banking system like they had in Europe where, you could only take out 40 euro per day. So, it depends on your want and need of a stable coin. And so we're trying to provide something that you can set aside and not worry about, and eventually move it so that it's usable in everyday life. The goals of these other companies are similar. We have Verifunder because to create a stable coin just for the sake of a stable coin, we thought that we actually wanted to tie it to a useful business and a business that actually uses a stable coin. So again, these are the things that we bring to the table, where in other instances they're using the stable coin as part of something that's called staking, where really you're just like it's putting in a deposit into a bank, a certificate, and you're not touching that bank for a guaranteed period of time. And if you put in 100,000, the bank can lend out 10 times that because they only need to keep 10% cash on their books, right?
Right.
And so that whole financial infrastructure in DeFi is being replicated, and similar things are happening. So we're not fully into the DeFi space. I don't know how far we'll go into it. We're more focused on the utility of our stablecoin and its liquidity.
Yeah, no, I like the answer. That's good. Thank you.
Okay.
As far as the biggest risk for your company, what do you consider that to be, and do you have any mitigation for it?
That's a good question. I think the biggest risk is the industry's reputation for cryptocurrency, blockchain, and the general DeFi space, decentralized finance. I think that they're starting to realize where the holes are, and I think the good companies will fix it. It's sad to say, a number of people are just going to go away because of that. They're not going to be able to withstand and hold their market share, return cash, and it's going to hurt a lot of people, which makes me really sad. And so I think, right now, a lot of people are holding back. Like they're trying to figure out, where do I want to be in this space? What can I do to protect myself more now that I can see these problems can happen? And so I think it's affected the overall trading volume and the overall demand for cryptocurrencies. And that will come back. It's like the stock market. If it takes a big hit and you're in a big bear market, people are pulling their cash out. And when they feel like there's kind of a bottom there, then they'll kind of slowly come back in until, things are where, everybody's happy and comfortable again. So I think it's the risk it's, like the stock market, booms and bears. It's going to have a big impact on everybody. And the way that we can sort of mitigate that risk is to continue building out the platform to have a good payment system and allow that payment system to support escrow and, sending money to your trading broker and eventually, into the general marketplace.
Right. And that also feeds into the backing of gold, why it's so important, and that there's something actually behind your product that others don't necessarily have.
Well, the good thing is that if everything goes really bad, your dollar would still be worth 2%.
Yep.
Right?
That's more than others. So
right, which we've seen, sadly,
Right.
But, joking aside, the whole idea is to have that confidence, a brand of transparency, and be able to serve people.
Yep. Very good. One last question here. It came in a little late, but it's a question that I've been following APTY for the better part of almost a year and a half now. And
wow, thank you.
Yeah. And this has been asked many, many times. The availability to purchase APTY in Canada. So when can we expect that?
So that's a fire that we're going to have to deal with, at some point.
Right.
But we were pleased to see that Interactive Brokers, which is an American-owned firm, they have a full office in Montreal. They have all the ties to the Canadian banks for transfers and for having, deposit insurance. My understanding is that you can buy APTY by opening up an account with them.
Okay.
So that's a temporary, and then at some point, I don't know, if it was me and I had a, Q trade or whatever that is taken and ask them, hey, I've got these shares, can I transfer them? Maybe they might let you transfer them. Maybe they won't let you buy them. I don't know. I mean, probably shouldn't, this is not advice. Okay. Let me put it this way. But to me, it is available through at least one source. And once everything's resolved with Alberta, that takes the pressure off the other provinces because they work in lockstep. Even though there's no issue in any other provinces, if one does it, they kind of all support each other.
Yep. So for all the Canadians, Interactive Brokers, that's what we should be looking for. So very good. Glenda, I want to thank you for your time. I know that was a lot of questions being fired at you all at once. Yes. You did a great job, and it was a pleasure to have you, and I hope to have you again at some point to answer some more questions.
Of course, yes. No, thank you for hosting. I think this went really well, and we were able to get, answers for people. And I was, happy we could do that.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I hope you have a great weekend, and
you too.
Again, thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.